You're listening to the Southern U Podcast, brought to you by Darton Archery on the OKest Podcast Network, with your hosts Taylor McMurtry, Jeremy Ferguson, and Matt Brock. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Southern U Podcast, where we do our best to educate landowners in the Southeast on all things land related. We're talking real estate, we've talked hunting, all that good stuff over the last few months, and you guys have been asking a lot about more management stuff specifically, and we're going to take just a second and on today's episode, and we're going to talk management, and specifically we've had a handful of you guys reach out and ask kind of similar things, similar topics, and so we kind of thought it'd be a good idea to combine all of these and make it one episode. But we're calling it the management calendar because a lot of you guys, like I said, have reached out and asked, hey, look, I've got this piece of property and I want it to be all that it can possibly be, whether that be for turkey or deer, quail, I mean, anything in between, or maybe it's timber, or maybe it's, ag or something like that. What do I need to be doing? What do I need to be mindful of throughout the entire course of a year? And so,
and that's a lot, by the way.
It is. It's a lot to cover. We're going to do our best, and despite being down a man,
thankfully, finally we get to do one of these without Matt.
Yeah, Matt is he's too busy for us, guys. He's got too much going on. He's having too much fun, killing too many turkeys.
Yeah, Matt's priorities seem to get out of line when there's something to be hunted.
That's right.
And I think the last 3 or 4 days he's whined about how much work he's got to do, except for he turkey hunts for the first 4 hours of the day and then decides it's time to go to work.
That's right.
We're working all day, every day.
We're over here slaving away, doing our thing, and Matt's trying to shoot birds in the face. So no sympathy from us.
No, none. I wish I was out there with him.
Oh, I know. I mean, he is the legend. So.
There's a reason he is the legend.
Yep. You don't get called that if you work all the time. You only get called that if you're in the woods a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, shout out to Matt.
So, hope you trip and fall today, buddy.
Yeah, there you go. We are. It's a lot to cover, and oh man, my phone is ringing. Can't get him. I'll have to text him back here in a second. But yeah, it is a whole lot to cover. And, of course, I think Matt and Jeremy were able to kind of at least talk through some of the stuff we'll be covering today and kind of put their thoughts together, even though Matt couldn't be here. So we are obviously very excited to kind of go over that kind of stuff too. And before we jump in, I just want to say to those of you who did enter our Darton Sequel 33 giveaway, thank you for that. We really appreciate you jumping on board. Not 100% sure why there was such a low entry in that contest, but it helped the odds for the winner. And so actually someone in Fayette, Alabama, I believe, over there in Matt's stomping grounds ended up winning it. So congrats. We appreciate you guys playing along. And like we've always said, we are trying to be a resource for any of you who happen to own land in the Southeast, who happen to manage, like maybe a long-term lease or something like that. That's kind of the goal. It's kind of the point here. We've talked hunting for a long time. We've, covered deer and turkey stuff. There's going to be more of that stuff to come, of course. We're not bailing out on that completely. But this is kind of the off season for a lot of people. Once you get through turkey season, and now it's like, okay, do I sit here and twiddle my thumbs, waiting on deer season to come back around? What can I be doing to properly steward my property and make it all that it can be? And so that's kind of where we're going to jump in today. We've said forever we want to be more than a hunting podcast.
Yep.
So we're going to talk management.
Yeah. Here is the 50,000 foot view of management, because this is just really pure and simple, going by month of the year kind of activities that we're looking at and that we're focused on, in our consulting business and our own land management side of things. And look, there's so much of it that I got to have a notebook to keep up with it. We do have spreadsheets on computers where we keep up with client properties and things like that. But just to sit and be able to talk about it, I've got a lot of notes. And obviously, we've already got past December, January, February, March. It's already April, but we're still going to talk about some of those things. And you're just going to have to throw questions in here, or it's just going to sound like I'm just reading a list.
No, well, I mean, that's part of it. And I'll probably imagine, again, this is the 50,000-foot view. We can't possibly cover everything in detail in one episode for this. So it may be one of those things where we go back and revisit this in greater detail at a later date. But I'm sure there's probably some terms that you guys may throw around that the general public, average landowner doesn't understand and maybe doesn't know. So I may, stop you and get you to kind of explain those things a little bit or something. But yeah, I mean, do you think it's best for us to start where we are here and now today, or should we start in January?
No, let's start where we are today.
Okay.
And then we'll circle back to things that everybody will be looking at for kind of end of the year and beginning of the year type deal. But we're April now. Matt and I are in the full throes of the burning season. I think last year between he and I, we burned 12 months a year, which, not a lot of people can say that. There's not a lot of burning goes on 12 months a year, but we have found the desire to do a lot more summer burning to see how, the research is out there says it's a great improvement to be able to burn, in the warmer growing season months to set back succession and provide, vital nutrients at a later point during that growing season, especially from a whitetail standpoint. But we're burning right now. Obviously, we're going through and maintaining fire lanes ahead of our burns, which is one thing, that's vital. You got to have good fire lanes. From a deer hunting perspective, I'm a little late, hadn't got mine out yet, but this is the right time to be putting mineral sights out. You'll hear Matt and I, kind of downplay minerals and feeding and things like that. If you're not doing everything that you can do, there's not really a huge need in doing, some of the Band-Aid fixes because they're not really doing much for you. But if you're already managing your property well, then adding feeding and mineral sites and all that in, is a great additive. It just helps you come full circle.
Right. Well, now, and I know I want you to I'll stop you a little early, but we had referenced some of this stuff on previous episodes, and boy, people got hot about it. Oh man, that trophy rock's the best thing in the world, or this mineral is the best. Can't believe you guys don't believe in that stuff or whatever. But what you were saying in that episode is, like you just mentioned, that's a Band-Aid. If you're not doing any kind of management and you just throw a mineral rock out there and think that that's going to add 50 inches to every buck's set of antlers, it's not going to happen.
Nope.
That doesn't work. But now, and even Matt said, now do the deer use those mineral sites? Well,
absolutely.
Yeah, of course. They'll wear
Everybody
them.
sees the hole.
Yeah, they'll wear them out, right? But we're talking about the net gain in body weight or in antler growth,
If it is sheer attraction that you're looking for, then sure, there's a lot of these products out there that are great. They have a high attractiveness. But if you're looking to make health gains in a deer herd, not an individual deer, in a deer herd, then if you're not doing everything else, then they're not helping either.
Right. So I just wanted to get some clarity on that because we're not saying you shouldn't do that. It's just if that's the only thing that you're doing, you think that that's going to work like some kind of magic bullet.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
It's not.
No. But
it's just like feeding.
Yeah.
Supplemental feeding. It's just that it's supplemental. But if you're feeding and your habitat just absolutely sucks, not doing you any good.
Right.
And if you're feeding until or if you're filling up feeders just when you can get to it, and those feeders aren't constantly full, on a place that you're managing well already, the inconsistency there causes you to lose benefit as well.
Right.
So if you're doing everything else right and you are feeding, make sure it's consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I also think that too with that, like it's goal oriented too, right?
It
like
is.
If you're like, hey, I want to take inventory of the bucks that I have on my property, well, that's a great way to do it.
Absolutely.
Throw out a mineral site, throw out some kind of attractant, and then set up a camera on it and see what shows up. But
bucks are highly attracted to the mineral sites in the late summer months.
Right.
Highly attracted. And
so,
so
like,
are the does, but
right.
you're going to see a lot of bucks dominate those sites.
And that's like the point, though. Like if that's what you're going after, then by all means, that's a great way to do.
That's right.
To take inventory.
Just say that's what you're doing.
Yes, just say that's what you're doing. Exactly. So, anyways,
and on mineral sites, I get asked 1,000 times a year, what minerals do I need to use? Look, just pick something that's good and balanced. What I generally use is I go to the co-op, I buy a 50-pound bag of trace mineral salt, buy a 50-pound bag of dicalcium phosphate. I mix it 50-50, and those two bags equal 100 pounds. I'm going to make 5, 6, maybe even up to 7 different mineral sites with that, just splitting them 50-50. Now later in the year, as we get closer to deer season, I do just toss a trophy rock or one of those type rocks down on top, just for added attractiveness.
what about I've heard a lot of old timers say that it's best to pour those on like a blowdown or a stump or something like that. Does that have any bearing in its effect?
Not in my experience, no. Now those, wood or dead cellulose does soak all that stuff up, and it's a way to, I guess, attract deer to a certain above ground spot where they're not digging a hole. But I've never just really been a fan of putting it on stumps. But that's just personal opinion. There's no reason not to.
Okay. That's good. I mean, I was curious. I know that, and I mean, not that this is a mineral or anything that would be good for a deer to ingest, but I've heard a lot of people talk about taking a gallon of bleach.
Clorox.
Yeah, and pouring it over a stump and saying, man, they'll eat it to the absolute dirt. And it's like,
good old Clorox stump.
Yeah.
One of AL Deer's favorite.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are they going to come to it? Yes. But it's just the mineral composition in the Clorox. Once it dries up and crystallizes, that's what they're attracted to.
Right. Okay.
Another great time of year for doing soil samples.
Okay.
But now, for me, soil samples happen when they can, unfortunately. In the business I'm in with real estate, if we buy a piece of property and it's July, well, by gosh, I'm going to go take a soil sample and find out what's going on. If it's February, I'm going to go take a soil sample. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm just using that for knowledge, for information on how that soil is doing. But if I'm doing it in an active management role, I do them twice a year, depending on what I'm looking for. And what type of planning I'm doing on those fields. But the March-April time frame is great. It's not terribly hot yet. Your fields, from the fall aren't overgrown, gotten real tall yet. And it gives you a chance to send those in and get them back before you're going to plant, spring plots.
Gotcha. Well, so like on the soil samples, though, I don't know that we've actually talked about the process before on here. A landowner, just has had a piece of ground for a long time, and they've never just done that, never gone through the process. How hard is that to do? Like,
it's not hard, but it helps to have the proper tools. Honestly, I mean, you can buy the T-handle soil probes that's they're maybe inch and a half inside diameter, where they're taking a very narrow probe out of the ground or a section out of the ground. The one I use is actually one that you step on, So it takes about almost the size of a golf cup. You're trying to put a golf ball in the cup. That size. It takes a section of the ground out, and we're focusing on the root zone. So we're trying to be in the root zone. Depending on what you're planting, that can be different. And this ain't a talk about that today.
Right.
But on most of the things that we're planting, I am trying to get a good cross section of soil, anywhere from 2 to about 6 or 7 inches deep. And now you want those evenly spaced across the field so that you get an accurate depiction, because fields can change from 1 foot to the next, especially if you've got topography or you've got a lot of different soil types. Another important thing is to take those vertically, straight up, straight down. You're not wanting to take them at an angle, because then you're not getting a real accurate depiction of what the soil's like. And you don't want to, fresh cleared ground. You don't want to get a lot of stick, root debris, and stuff like that in it either. It doesn't. It doesn't give you as accurate results.
And so now, once I've collected the sample, what am I doing with it? Where do I take it? Who's going to give me the results?
There are a blue million places that you can send it. In Alabama, one of the more popular ones is just to send it to Auburn University. I mean, there's behind the camera there, I've got boxes that go to Auburn. The lab I send mine to, generally speaking, is Waypoint Analytical in Memphis, Tennessee. Waters lab does great soil samples. Ward, same deal. They give you great information. You just got to know what to ask. And this, there again, this episode isn't what to ask.
Right.
I really want to have some soil guys on here, and let's talk about what to ask. Because I'm no soil scientist. Look, I'm a practitioner of what the experts tell me. So when I get my soil reports in, look, I understand the basic pH and the fertilizer recommendations, but when it gets into buffer pH, which is not really all that important, but your cation exchange capacity, your CEC, your base saturations, I understand it, but I always fall back to the expert and say, hey, this is what I've got. Walk me through how we need to handle this, if it's something out of the norm that I'm not used to.
I got you. Well, I mean, that's good to know, because the general person would probably not, be able to get.
No.
Here's all these results. And what does all this mean?
Honestly, and I hate to say this because, look, went to Auburn, love my Auburn family. Their information on their boxes and the sheets that they send out for submittal don't help you a whole heck of a lot when it comes to telling you what you need to select. And the average guy in Alabama that sends them to Auburn, that just puts it in a box and sends it, doesn't get the information they need. They get a pH and they get their fertilizer recommendation. That's not what you need. Does it help you? Is it a part of it? Yes, it's a part of it. But to me, you've only got 50% of your answers when you know that.
The Southern U podcast is brought to you by Vitalized Seed. What sets Vitalized Seed mixes apart from other companies is their ability to keep producing throughout multiple periods of the year. The symbiotic relationships between the different varieties support soil health while being extremely attractive to a variety of wildlife and important pollinators. If you're looking for a product that is going to benefit all of your wildlife and help you put deer and turkey in the freezer, ask your local seed dealer for Vitalized Seed. And for more information, visit vitalizeseed.com. That's VITALIZESEED.com. Gotcha. Okay. Well, it's good to know, though. I mean, that even somebody like you or Matt goes, hey, look, I still got to call these guys, and I still need to get some direction and some instruction on what to do with these results.
Yep. So, if you're spending the kind of money some of these big landowners are and planting high-quality food plots, seed now may cost you over $100 an acre. Fertilize is through the roof. Fuel, your time, it's thousands invested in some of these fields. call an expert.
Yeah.
Take 5 minutes. Many of these seed companies have good guys at the office that can walk you through. I'm constantly on the phone with Al with Vitalize. Buddy of mine, Jody Holbrooks, is with Whitetail Institute. These guys will answer the phone and they will walk you through everything you need to know. Now, sometimes this time of year it's tough to get them. Look, because every Tom, Dick, and Harry is calling. Mm-hmm. But before you screw up and waste money, make a phone call.
Yeah, well, swallow your pride.
That's it. That's it. Because time and time again, we run into people that have spent a lot of money, and they just asked us some basic questions. Hey, what should I do with this? And we're like, well, here's how we handle it. But then that's the only questions they ask. Mm-hmm. And they spend thousands of dollars and a lot of time. And you ask how it went, and they're like, well, it was a total failure. Well, why? And they go through telling you how they did seedbed prep or, all the things that they've done. And you're like, why did you do it that way? And they're like, well, that's how Granddaddy did it. Granddaddy didn't always know best.
Yep.
That hurts some guys' feelings.
Oh, it hurts a lot of people's feelings.
It took my dad. Still, he's finally grasping the fact that just because somebody told him it was that way, 50 years ago, he's learning that they didn't know best.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with tradition when tradition makes sense.
That's right.
But, that goes for a lot of different things. I won't get off on a tangent on that. But just because you've done it a certain way for a really long time doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way,
No, look, that's the definition of insanity, right? Keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results.
Right. Yep, that's true.
If you're wanting better results, why aren't you still doing it the same way?
Yes, exactly.
Moving past soil samples, March and April is a great time frame to be spraying and fertilizing clover. The one caveat, if you talk to 100 different guys, you're probably going to get 75 different answers on what temperature you want to be doing that. Look, this is my personal opinion. I'm no soil scientist, but I want soil temperatures to be around 60 degrees before I'm spending money on fertilizing and spraying. Mm. Some guys go way before that. Some guys are like, no, man, you got to wait till it's 65. I'm just saying what I do.
Yeah, well, and simple. And it seems to work.
It does.
Right. It's not like you have food plots that just crap out.
Nope. I've only got one place that food plots craps out, and it's because we're trying to grow them on top of the limestone rocks.
Yeah, that's tough. That sounds like some Jackson County stuff or something.
It is Marshall.
Oh, is it? No,
yeah, it's Marshall.
Yeah, well, parts of Marshall's pretty rocky too.
Toughest place to grow a food plot I've worked in my entire career.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. That's interesting.
Just because of the rock.
Yep. Well, there's no nutrients. There's no nutrients. That's all there is.
And a big part of it is it's not necessarily nutrient deprived. It's just there's no soil.
Yeah, no dirt.
You could grow ryegrass because you can grow it on asphalt.
Yeah.
But you can't grow anything else.
Yeah.
Or it's very, very tough anyway. One that a lot of people miss when it comes, there again, we're talking March, April time frame. If you are planning on planting trees that you're not just going to go to your local nursery and buy, like if you're going to plant acres and acres of pines or hardwoods, this is the time of year you need to be working with somebody to order those trees.
Okay.
This is the biggest failure that Matt and I have when it comes to working on NRCS or government contracts that are planting trees. A lot of times we don't find out that they're approved for those contracts until midsummer. Well, many times those trees are sold out. So, they're having to get contract extensions. So if you know that you're going to plant pines or hardwoods in a significant amount of acres, you need to be working with somebody in the springtime to ensure you have trees that winter to plant.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's true. And I guess by the time that some of these get approved, not only, let's just say they're not sold out, but in terms of getting these things in the ground and having a successful transplant, I guess, is that, do your odds go down? after that too, because it's later in the year than we should have planted them?
Well, they do, but we've got a huge time frame there, and that's I don't guess you've ever seen it either. From a tree planting aspect, we're ordering these trees this time of year because a lot of times we're ordering hundreds of thousands of trees to go on one place. We're not going to plant those trees until December, January. The seeds are already in the ground, or the trees are already in the ground. They're seedlings at this point. But these big, large nurseries that provide all these seedlings for timber companies and anybody growing, timberland, they've got a finite number of seedlings. And they've got a finite number of each variety or each species or each family that is suited to grow in a certain location. Like up here, we need Piedmont variety of loblolly pine trees. You get further south, you need coastal variety. And look, I'm not going to get into all the differences there, but that's a minor difference that I may call and say, hey, guys, I need 400,000 Piedmont variety loblolly pine that's second gen. All right. Okay, well, we're out. We got plenty of coastal, but no Piedmont. And, then I'm left to one, either go to another nursery, which we've got a few choices, not a bunch, but we got a few. Or we call the landowner and be like, hey, we're out, or they're out. We're going to have to wait till next year. And that happens at least 2 or 3 times on an annual basis.
Gotcha.
Until where we have to push people off because we don't have the number of trees that we need.
And I guess that's major letdown, disappointment.
It is. It is. But we'll talk about spraying here in a minute. If we know we can't get trees, and that's one reason we want to know now, then there's no need for us to spray either.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So if
saving money,
that's it. So if we know we can't get trees, we're not going to spray. We'll wait till next year. But what happens if we've already sprayed? And that's what we're running into with the NRCS stuff is we've got things lined up. It gets sprayed, and then all of a sudden they go,
we're out.
Yeah, we're out. And we're like, okay. Well, we've just spent $25,000 spraying, and we've got no access to trees. Then wheels really start turning, trying to put together a way to get trees.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's we have worked with the state all the way up to the federal level with NRCS trying to work that out, and there's just right now there's not a good option for us. So it's you work it where you can. Moving on into May and July, this is a popular month for me to be putting dozers on the ground, excavators on the ground, where we're redoing road work on places if we need to. We're building lakes or putting building pads in. Whatever we're doing, we're getting into drier months. And there's nothing more frustrating than moving a dozer on site and work a week and can't work for 2 weeks and work 3 days. And so this is time of year we really get to doing our dirt work projects. Still burn, baby, burn. I mean, we're burning that time of year. The really hot months when we aren't planting and doing other stuff, we reserve some time in there to put up shooting houses, do blind construction or move them around. Good time. We mentioned soil samples back, March, April time frame. You should have those results back. It's a great time to start putting lime out. Okay, so we're starting to put lime out. We're getting in our mind what we're going to plant in March and April, and then depending on where you are, you can start planting in April, or you may have to wait on into May. I took a lump several years ago. We planted. Anybody that's planted Eagle seed knows how expensive their soybeans are. Back then, I think they were probably $75 a bag, and we planted almost 100 acres on a big tract that we managed, and we planted the last. It was almost the last week of April, but we got a frost the last week of April, and our beans had just come up, just germinated, and just had the tiniest little 2 leaves, and it smoked that place. I mean, so, $8,000 or more in seed just shot. And I have been very, very careful since about my soybean planting or my sunflower planting. Corn, you can rock and roll pretty early on it. But that bit me enough that I haven't put a soybean in the ground before the first week of May.
Sure.
But anyway, so we're planting that time of year, so we're putting our spring fields in, really regardless what the species is at that point, unless it's some of our waterfowl stuff.
Okay.
That, if we're doing millet, something that we've got plenty of time to get mature and don't want to run into other issues, we may wait and plant on into June for some of that stuff.
Which now I want to say this too, like obviously what Jeremy's talking about right now is kind of like in the perfect world, best case scenario, this is what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Now, you and I remember, 2016?
16.
When you had, in some parts of Alabama, 70-plus days, consecutive days of zero rainfall, no precipitation whatsoever. If that's going on, well, you can throw this stuff out the window.
Oh, yeah,
you can't plant.
You've got to let Mother Nature tell you what you can and can't do.
Right.
And, I mean, right now, look, I feel fairly confident we could be planting soybeans, or we could have been planting soybeans last week here. I mean, it's been 60, 70s, and then some 80-degree days, already, this early in April. I feel confident that we could get away with it based off the weather pattern we are in now. Have I done it? No. Look, if it was my money, my field, I'd risk it. I'm not going to risk my clients' money,
right?
And their fields. I have to realize that Mother Nature taught me a lesson years ago, and I have to keep on with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there are going to be caveats thrown in everywhere. There are different things. Look, you may hit timing perfect with your spring plots, and then midsummer, it was, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago now. I think it was 2020 that we had just a massive outbreak of fall armyworms.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that.
That just decimated our part of the world.
Yep, I do remember that.
And, you may hit the weather perfect, and then a bug gets you.
Yeah.
So it's tough. My dad's always said it, and I continue to say it. Mother Nature's against a fella. I mean, she is. But if you kind of stick to a timeline, it just helps you prepare.
Yeah.
And preparedness, will help you have more consistency.
Sure. And I mean, before we kind of move on here, what I think I'm hearing you say when it comes to soil samples and burning, there's really not a bad time.
Not a bad time
to do either of those.
Nope.
So I would have felt like, hey man, if we're getting ready for deer season or we're getting ready for turkey season, probably don't want to burn. Is that the case or not? Or
well, there's not a consensus on that when it comes to burning in turkey season. There are still a lot of hardcore turkey hunters out there that's like, why in God's name would you burn when you know turkeys are nesting? Well, the way we burn, we are not burning massive blocks of land. We're burning, a big block for us. As a matter of fact, the largest block that I can remember we burned this year was 432 acres in a block. Most of the time, it's less than 100 acres. Occasionally, it's 1 or 2. When you're burning tracts that size, you're not going to be burning up a significant number of turkey nests. Number one. Number two, turkeys will re-nest. Now, their production level at re-nest or success level goes down. Yes, we know that. But number three, or A2, what is it, A2?
Yeah, A2, B1, whatever, yeah.
Number three, the good that we are doing for the habitat outweighs the loss of a couple of turkey nests. Because, look, based off of pure numbers, turkeys run about 20% success rate on a nest. Anyway,
Okay.
when things are
Ideal.
when things are average.
Okay.
Basically, the way we're seeing it now, average across the landscape, they're about 20% success rate. So if you burn up 3 nests and they're 20% success rate, and average clutch of 10, they're raising 2, you've lost 6 turkeys. That's not a world ender. Is it good? No. Is it bad? Not necessarily. Now, it is if you don't want to lose a turkey. But look, we're going to lose turkeys. Everything kills turkeys.
But I was going to say, we'll talk about that probably here in a minute too.
Oh, yeah. So not the end of the world. I know some people are just dead set against it. I'm not. If I can have a positive impact on the habitat, that's what I'm after.
So I guess I'm probably speculating here a little bit, but if I had to guess, there's going to be someone out there that's rebuttal to that statement is, well, okay, so why can't you just wait a little longer? So just wait a little longer and then burn later.
Well, you can.
Okay, so is it, is there like a reason that like we got to burn right now? We have to. Or,
in some instances, yes.
Okay.
In some instances, we are bound by either contract date or a landowner's desires.
Gotcha.
To get something done. And sometimes it's just our timing. Look, there are not very many burn practitioners left. We get calls almost daily for burning during burn season. Some of them are big contracts, but, I can count on one hand the groups or folks in Alabama that I know burn the number of acres that we do. So it's just not a lot of it going on. So if our back's against the wall, we've got to get to more acres, and sometimes we just got to burn what we can burn. And weather and topography tells us that. We may have 4 or 5 tracks that we can burn, but the wind may be wrong for 3 of those tracks, and we've got to burn this one today.
Yeah.
So there are so many factors that it's hard to say, well, why don't you just wait? In a perfect world, if all you're worrying about is your property, wait.
Yeah, and so
by all means, wait.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where I was coming from. It's like, if this is my place
Yep.
and I'm going to burn this stuff myself, can I just wait?
Yeah, and technically speaking, look, I had rather wait and back my burns up a little bit now. Because number one, research is showing if you'll back those burns up into May, June, you can set back, that succession timing to where you have a good green flush later than everywhere else, and you've got a good nutrition level in your woods at a time that most of the woods are hardening back off somewhere else during a stress period. So, in the perfect world, I'd like to burn late.
Sure.
But, the world isn't perfect.
Well, no, but I think there's probably a lot to what you just said, too. The whole reason you're doing this is to give your property some sort of advantage. Right?
That's right.
To give some sort of edge over your neighbors or over whatever. So, hey, if we can set this back, and now we've got beautiful, lush green stuff popping up when everybody else has dead stuff.
Yep.
Well, man, it's got to help. Right?
It does.
It has to for your property. The Southern U podcast is brought to you by Tethered. For the last 5 years and counting, Tethered has pushed the boundaries of what mobile hunting looks like. Thanks to Tethered, gone are the days of having to haul heavy gear into the woods in order to hunt from elevation. Their lineup of tree saddles are lighter and safer than other methods. And saddles are not the only thing that Tethered has made better. Their complete lineup of sticks, packs, and other accessories have streamlined the process of getting to your desired hunting area and doing more of what we all love to do, hunt. So if you're ready to ditch the bulky, heavy, and loud hunting methods of the past, check out Tethered's complete list of products and gear at tetherednation.com. That's TETHRDNATION.com.
It does.
That's a good point.
A little more fine-tuned, mid-early June is a really good time to do whistle counts for your quail.
Okay.
I don't do a lot of them. I know guys that are very, very intensively managing quail. They do these things and covey counts in the fall. I'll be honest, I might do one a year. But there again, if that's what you're worried about, this is the time. That early to mid June is the time to be listening for quail whistles.
Love quail.
I wish we had more.
No, sure.
I'd give up a lot of stuff for a lot of quail. I really would. Invasive control, kudzu, Kogan grass,
Bradford pears,
tallow tree. I mean, the list goes on and on. I won't bore you with that, but great time to be out in the woods spraying and hacking, squirting. Well, look, they hack and squirt this time of year. I'm not a big fan of it. I think there's too much stem flow. I'll talk about when. So
you're not a fan of the method or the timing, or both?
The timing.
Okay.
Yep. I prefer, and really even on the invasive control for any woody species, I prefer to be later.
Okay.
Technically, I guess. Woody species can withstand some herbicides better than a lot of your grasses. If you've got a really wet year and you've got high stem flow, meaning a lot of water, flowing up through the tree, going to the leaves and whatnot, they will, the herbicide will hurt the tree. It'll ding it, but it won't kill it.
Gotcha.
I much rather target when I know that tree is really pulling down nutrients and trying to store in the root to survive through the winter time. I want that herbicide going down then.
Gotcha.
I don't want it when there's a lot of water, excess water, and that tree can, quote unquote, metabolize that herbicide better. I want it later in the year.
Yeah.
That's just me.
More concentrated.
Yep. And that early summer time frame, again, we talked about the fertilize and the fields. Some people do split fertilize applications, some don't. If you're planting something that requires a lot of nitrogen, this is a good time to be doing your split applications, because more than likely this time of year, being out to June, July, depending on your plant date, especially on corn, stuff like that, it's still short enough you can get equipment over the top of it and do a second application of nitrogen.
Okay.
Most people aren't doing that.
Yeah, I would say
the vast majority are not.
I don't know that I've ever heard of anybody around here doing that myself.
See, a lot of your big farmers will. I do on occasion with sunflowers, corn, sorghum, things like that. I know I'm going to need a little extra to carry me through.
And you know that from your soil sample?
I know that from my soil sample.
Gotcha.
And my soil professional.
Yep.
Because they're reading these things and they're going, look, Jeremy, you need X number of pounds of nitrogen per acre, through the growing season, but you're going to get your best bang if you put it at plant and then you wait till we hit X leaf stage. Just depending on what we're doing, what we're growing for, that they'll give me a stage of growth. They say, when you hit that, there's when you need your second application.
Gotcha.
So that's a good time. We talked about the ordering trees. Okay, this time of year, the early summer, midsummer is perfect time to start scheduling your aerial herbicide or your skidder herbicide applications. And I say this being midsummer.
Okay, gotcha.
You don't really want August, September, because that's really when you want some of those applications done. Depending on your goal. So, June-ish, mid-June, I'm calling my contractors and saying, hey, we've got 300 acres of pine that we need release sprayed, and we're putting maps together and getting prices for all that.
Gotcha.
And the importance for the tree planting is from a site prep standpoint, site preparation, is if you don't get it scheduled early enough during the year, then you may get put in the release spray time frame trying to do your site prep spray, so meaning you're going to be later. And it would be great to have those things sprayed August, September, when it's good and hot part of the summer, and then you can get your 45-day time period on those herbicides, working on those plants. Depending on what your prescription is, you may even want a 60-day window for those herbicides to really take full effect. And then you still want to burn while it's hot and dry for site prep to really eat your fuels up.
I got you.
Release spraying is different. We'll spray all the way out until just prior to first frost.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, a long way.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So you still got a lot of time to do some release spraying, but you got to be very careful with that timing. But that's where having a good contractor comes in.
I got you.
So if we're flying over and we're trying to control hardwood species, sweet gum or poplar in a pine stand, or even privet in a pine stand, I personally want to wait absolutely as long as I can until we fly over that, because once those trees start shutting down, they're pulling all those nutrients down to the roots to hold on for the wintertime, and they pull that herbicide down and just lock it in.
They're toast.
You get a great control. But now privet you can handle a little different. We'll get on into it in the dead of winter for privet.
Hate that stuff.
It's awful. It's terrible. Another thing, we talked about our planting, doing our field planting. My redneck is saying planting, it's plant, not plan P-L-A-N, it's P-L-A-N-T.
Planting.
Yeah, planting. Most of it is wrapped up by July unless we've had a problem. We should be done with it, early June. So late June, July, I am moving all my equipment into the shop. It's hot as blue blazes. We've got the air conditioner on, and we are focused on equipment maintenance. Running through, greasing, you need to be greasing equipment every day anyway, but we're running through and doing our maintenance, checking everything, because when I park my equipment because what I use for spring planting and what I use for fall planting are different implements, because I'm typically running a row planter in the spring doing our corn, soybeans, and sunflowers and things like that. When I park it, I want it parked clean and maintained.
Yeah.
And that way when I get ready to go next year, we just do some checks, make sure everything's good. I know it has been well maintained, and we can hit the ground without any problems.
Kind of like cleaning your gun after you shoot it. You don't want to put up a gun that's got powder burned through it and then just leave it in the gun case till next year.
That's right. This one narrows down, gets more. Shoot, man, this gets 1,000-foot level here. If you're trying to control Bermuda grass in something, this is a great time to be spraying.
Okay. Yeah.
June, July. Bermuda grass is the absolute toughest thing to kill on the planet unless you are trying to grow it for hay.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
If you're trying to grow it in your yard or for hay, you can't get it to grow.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to ask. Why is Bermuda grass? I mean, is that a this is me just being ignorant. Okay, I can understand why you'd want to control sweet gums and poplars and why privet, kudzu, stuff like that is unwanted. Is Bermuda grass not wanted?
Nope.
Really?
It's carpet grass.
Right.
So, it where it does well or where it's doing well, it will outcompete everything else. So if it's in an area you're trying to establish native grasses and forbs, it will actually absolutely choke that stuff out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Same with fescue and Bahia grass. You just handle them differently. Yeah, different times.
Gotcha.
Predator control, we really get ramped up in the late summer months for us here because our fawning season let's just throw everything else out the window. Averages across Alabama is about August.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
But I saw some spotted fawns.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and we've got 6 zones now, and they're all different. But by and large, if you average it all out, about August for us. So we want to really be hitting coyotes and technically bobcats. Bobcats have to be trapped or can only be trapped during trapping season. You can legally shoot bobcats. So these guys have figured out how to catch a bobcat, turn it loose, and shoot it real fast. is absolutely what they're doing to try to skirt that line. We don't have a trapper anymore, so I don't have to worry about it. But if you were trapping, that's time frame that you're wanting to really start wearing in on the coyotes.
Yeah, we had someone specifically ask, like, hey, can you cover predator management, means, methods, timing, species even, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know that I heard something, and I don't want to misquote this, but I believe this was a well-known turkey researcher. If I said his name, everybody here would know him. But
oh my gosh!
So he said that that a raccoon is not nearly the threat to a turkey nest that everybody has made them out to be. It's like, if I would not necessarily worry so much about a raccoon raiding a nest as opposed to other species that you may have, the predators that you may have on your property.
Baloney.
No, really?
Look, I mean, I read all, and I know who you're talking about. And I think during that spiel where he said that, I think his caveat in there was, if the habitat is correct, raccoons aren't nearly a problem as people suggest.
Gotcha.
And that is absolutely correct.
Okay.
But just in the poorly managed state that turkeys are in right now, yes, raccoons are an issue.
So
possums are an issue.
So bad habitat equals raccoon problems?
Yes.
Or in greatly managed habitat, not so much.
Equals much less of a problem.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
No question. If you have high quality habitat, nest predators, and look, those guys out there, well, they're not predators, they're scavengers. I don't care what you call them. If they eat an egg and the habitat is right, then they're going to find less eggs, whether they're scavenging, predating, whatever you want to call it. If you get the habitat right, those animals are going to find less of the nest.
The Southern U podcast is brought to you by First South Farm Credit. If you are looking to purchase land, it's highly likely that financing will be needed. The team at First South Farm Credit understands the ins and outs of the land buying process and can help you get the financing needed to secure your purchase. Whether you are looking for that dream cattle farm or that big piece of timber to chase deer and turkey on, First South Farm Credit can get it done. For more information, visit firstsouthfarmcredit.com. That's first, F-I-R-S-T, South, S-O-U-T-H, Farm, F-A-R-M, Credit, C-R-E-D-I-T.com. That makes sense.
So, we won't get on.
No, but I just was curious.
Yeah. July time frame for us. Uh, Most parts of the state is a great time to do turkey poll surveys.
Mm-hmm.
And look, for guys that are highly interested in turkey poult surveys or their turkey numbers, I suggest they set out and do these things on purpose. Put camera traps out, and by camera trap, we're just talking about put a camera out. Have areas that you can see the little turkey poults, because they're, that time of year they're still small. People know what kind of territory turkeys try to traverse. They're not getting through that thick matted grass. If they can be on edges and they've got some bare dirt and clumps of grass and weeds and things, that's a good mix. That's where they're going to run. We tell folks to just bush hog 4 or 5 strips next, to the woods that's next to, a field or whatnot. Give them a little alley that they can walk and count them and try to keep up. You don't want to bait them. You don't want to create predator pits out of that, doing that type of practice.
Right.
But, if you'll start keeping up with how many turkey numbers or turkey poults you're seeing, and you track your practices, then you're going to figure out what works for you and what doesn't.
Gotcha. Okay. That's a cool way to kind of keep an inventory, I guess. Like I said, don't turn it into an ambush spot. But.
Yeah, no, because you certainly can, especially if you go throwing, wheat seed out and draw the hens to certain locations that doesn't have real good brood cover. Because those poults are going to follow where she goes, and if you arbitrarily draw her into an area that's not suited or not suitable brooding habitat, then you're going to cause yourself some problems.
Right.
That gets us into August, September, so late summer months. Number one, everybody there, their mind immediately goes to, it's time to plant fall plots. I'm not going to call you an idiot if you plant on Labor Day, but if you do, you're an idiot.
I gotcha.
Look, that's just too early. And I'm being a little facetious here by calling them idiot. That sometimes you've got the time, and that's when you get to do it.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
I'm just picking.
Sure.
But that is early for us in our part of the South. You still run into problems with drought, and you still run into problems with armyworms that early. So you can spend a lot of time and a lot of money and have a beautiful field that looks great, and then it just die.
Yeah, sure.
September is usually a pretty good month for us in Alabama for the amount of rainfall that we get. And I think that's along with Labor Day is why people get started. Look, it's before football season. All you rabid Alabama fans, can't miss a second of anything. But all these things are starting to stack up, and they're like, well, we can do it Labor Day, and we don't have to worry about the rest. Well, if you happen to have a drought or you happen to have armyworms, then there you are. You spent a lot of time, a lot of money, and you've lost all the work that you've done. We target our planting the first, second week of October.
Okay.
And the reason we do that, I mentioned September, generally a good month for rainfall for us. Our driest month is October. So if you establish a field in September and you get decent germination, and then we turn off and have a bad October, like worse than normal, then you may completely lose your field. And you got guys going back in top seed and stuff. Typically your ryegrass, which is not a preferred food anyway, so to speak.
It's green.
It's green. It's green and pretty, but they don't prefer it at the right times. Look, they'll eat it if that's all they got. And look, it's not necessarily bad forage. It's just not preferred during the time that we need it as hunters to be attractive, and the nutrient value during the times they need it during that stress period isn't where it needs to be.
Right.
It's much later. So it's not suited for that window of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a heavy reseeder, so if you ever don't want it, you're going to fight like the dickens to get rid of it.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting on the timing there, because you hear a lot of people like, oh, I want to plant in October because the season opens up in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Around here it's always either October 15th, 14th, whatever.
Yep.
And so, but like no problem at all planting plots.
No, we
2 weeks before the season starts.
No, we hunt. I mean, almost on an annual basis. Y'all know Matt and I hunt together. We'll be hunting during bow season, and we'll hunt that morning, and we'll start planting plots that day at lunch. That's just the way we do it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, don't want to derail too bad, but a lot of kind of like what we've talked about before. My dad said, my granddad said,
Yep.
type stuff. Like, well, you don't want to plant that close to the season. It'll run all these deer off.
Mm-hmm.
Or you've got equipment in there and you're tilling up the ground and all that kind of stuff. But like, sometimes, I'm not saying that animals, deer or turkey, whatever, I'm not saying that they're stupid. But sometimes I think that we do give them a little too much credit when it comes to that kind of stuff, because, over the years, what little I have done of that, where I've had long-term leases that we've been able to plant and stuff, man, if you go till up some land, whether you plant it or not, you go till it up,
immediate.
They are coming to check out that field to see.
Immediate.
Yes, immediately. They're not scared of that at all.
I was going to say that. I don't know what it is about the smell of fresh dirt, but when deer smell it, they go to it.
Yes.
They investigate.
For sure.
So, August, September time frame, like we mentioned, big time for prepping for fall planting. And I'm talking about just getting ready. I'm not talking about planting, but getting ready. Matt wanted me to make sure to mention establishing the pollinator, so the bee-friendly mixes. This is a big time for them to be doing that. Right away, trimming, spraying, trying to maintain your roads and all that on properties. Another great time to be doing a preseason camera survey or preseason scouting. Just trying to find what state everything's in the woods and in the world, with as far as your deer goes. Toward the end of September, you can start kind of scouting for acorns, seeing how that's going. So we mentioned the Bermuda grass. So for some of your cool season grasses like fescue that you're wanting to get rid of and be able to plant, some of these native mixes, this is a great time to burn, mow, disturb those cool season grasses.
All of the above.
Yep. Just if you can disturb them, this is the time to set them back, make them put energy into growing. Okay. This is a time of year, September time frame is a time of year where we're getting into our site prep, burning, getting ready for tree planting in the winter time. Burn, baby, burn.
Yeah.
If you got something to burn, continue on with your burning. We don't do a ton of burning other than site prep burning this time of year, just because it's tough. We'll have specific small stands that we'll get in and try to do some burning, but the humidity that time of year is just brutal and tough to get anything that's got just a little bit of green in it. You can't hardly get it to burn with that type of humidity. Great time of year to continue, with your soil sampling. Anytime's a good time, but if you've already got your soil samples, likely, if you need lime, this is a good time. It's still pretty early to go ahead and get lime in the ground so it'll start working. If you incorporate lime, it can work pretty quick. They say 30 to 45 days. I say the guys, the guys that I'm talking to that are soil professionals, they say, minimum 30, probably 45 days or so, it'll start taking effect. Probably not going to get, full effect for 90 to 120 days. But still, if you get the lime out there, in this time frame, you've got 45 days or so ahead of planting that you're able to start getting some effect. Hack and squirt. Now I'm okay with getting started. This time during the summer, some of your species are starting to slow down. It's not it's hot and a lot of times it's dry in August. September we typically get quite a bit of rain, but the growth period for those trees are starting to come to an end. So I'm good with going out and doing hack and squirt, this time of year, although it's brutal.
I was about to say, man, that seems like brutal. A very labor-intensive, time-consuming effort there. So you wouldn't want to do that over a large portion of...
No, I say I'm a fan of doing it. I am not a fan of doing it. I'm a fan of the timing.
Yeah.
It would be just absolutely brutal to be doing that type work during the summertime. There again, follow up with dirt work, trying to finish projects out, and if you've got shooting houses and things that you're moving, still do the same. Man, that jumps us all the way over into October and November, which everybody immediately jumps to fall planting. Number one thing. So for me, I'm wanting to plant, first couple of weeks of October. Look, I have put grass in the ground, put seed in the ground, all the way to December.
Yeah.
So if you've got the warm days, if you've got the soil temperatures, it'll grow. Like most people in our part of the world, last year was just terrible. We were dry late, and we got cold early. So most people in Alabama, and I'm sure parts of Mississippi and Georgia, had terrible, terrible fall food plots, and really have just now started to come into their own with the weather that we've been having. It's warm and wet. So
right.
If you're going to do any fall burning to try to control some hardwoods or woody species, this is a good time, late October-ish, when leaves are just starting to drop. It's a pretty good time to get on those. From a hunting aspect, scouting for acorns, best time, in that early October, which, we're coming into hunting season then. So, I really, if I could, I'm going to find my acorns ahead of time, in September.
Sure.
But, still a good time to find acorns for hunting.
Acorns. That's right. All about the acorns.
Acorns. Getting back into the control of grasses. Okay, this is the time that you really have an effect on your cool season grasses. So this is when you spray them. So, we talked August, September to burn, mow, disturb them. So they've put all that energy into coming back, and now we're going to hit them with a herbicide just to knock them out. Are you going to have some residuals the next year? Yeah, likely, but you're going to get significant control if you burn, disc, that type thing, or not disc, burn, mow. I suppose you could disc. We don't. We burn and mow. But set those things back in August, September, and then we're spraying late October.
Gotcha.
When I'm spraying. Your timing is going to be different depending on where you are. You just want to hit them right at or after, really, the first frost.
Okay, yeah.
You want that first frost to knock out, shut down all those other grasses. And then when you've got that and you hit these things, these cool season grasses that are actively trying to grow, it absolutely hammers them.
Yep. For sure. Well, yeah, use Mother Nature to your advantage.
That's
there,
it.
That's
it.
The Southern U podcast is brought to you by Darton Archery. For over 70 years, Darton Archery has been leading the way in archery innovation. With over 30 patents spanning over 60 years, it's easy to see why many archers and bow hunters have chosen to shoot a dart. Darton's patented dual sync cam system gives the archer 1/4 inch draw length adjustments, adjustable holding weight options ranging from 85% to 65%, and the super easy to tune E system for quick adjustments and perfect arrow flight. For more information or to find an authorized Darton dealer, visit dartonarchery.com. That's DartonArchery.com.
Burning our site prep burns still. So if you're planting trees, in the wintertime, more than likely most of the tree planting is going to be going on in our part of the world in December, January, February. So, get your burning done, now.
Mm-hmm.
You can continue with the hack and squirt. For guys that are using sprayers a lot, make sure you winterize those things this time of year before we get that first frost or we get those freezing temperatures. Or you're going to end up with some busted hoses, busted nozzles, and things like that. For those of you like me that's still using them, keep them inside. That's what we do. But you can start after the first frost. You can start spraying privet. For pretty good privet control. Preferably, I'm going to wait a little bit, but you can start during that time frame. And if you're going to do disking and mowing for fall, I wait till this time frame. Some people don't want to disc and mow. They don't want to do any kind of maintenance to their property during poult season for turkeys, and then they don't want to do any for fawning season. So, it pushes them back. If you've got that maintenance to do, this is a great time. Everything's, up and at it itself enough as far as animals go that you can safely do these without having any kind of negative impact.
Right. And I feel like, I could be wrong, but at this point in the season, there's probably the groundwork, I guess, is probably not at the forefront of a lot of people's mind.
Nope.
Now it's time to go hunt.
That's it.
You know what I mean? And,
look, I don't even have that wrote down.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. For the most part, like, I talked to Matt about this separately, and when we were talking, I'm like, sometimes your quote-unquote management is just hunt. Like, you need to go manage the animals on your property. You know what I mean? It's time to go and harvest a few deer, harvest a few turkeys, or whatever it looks like, but that's all your calendar needs to consist of. I could read y'all the calendar that Matt sent us in the group text today. That what his
y'all know what his priorities are. But now, kind of circling back to the time of the year that we've already passed. December, January, February. I do have hunting there.
There you go.
But continue maintaining your fire lanes because burning season's coming up.
That's right. Yep.
If you're gonna do dormant season fire, this is your time. December, January, February, and that's primarily one of a couple of things. Either you're trying to promote some grasses, or you are just trying to remove fuel load.
Gotcha.
That's your two biggies. If you're doing dormant season burning, still a great time to be working on your nest predators. You're going to be out in the woods anyway. You're going to be hunting. Set some coon traps for possums and coons and things of that nature. Now it's when I really want to be spraying privet.
Okay.
December, January, February. Look, it don't get cold enough here for us not to be spraying privet. And if you spray privet this time of year, it will absolutely smoke it.
Yeah.
So you can broadcast spray over the top of it. Hardwoods don't have leaves. You're not going to be able to spray the top of pine trees, with most people's equipment. So if you've got access to a sprayer and you've got privet on the edges of your fields, unless it's a green food plot. Now, you don't want to dose your green food plots, but anywhere else, man, you can run out there with a good dose of glyphosate or 2,4-D, something like that, whatever your prescription you want to use. That's for another episode.
There you go.
Spray that privet this time of year.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yep. February, end of February, do some postseason scouting. Figure out some things that you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Great time of year to be in the woods. It's still cool. No ticks, or not many.
You have to look for them hard.
Yeah, a limited number of snakes.
Yeah.
You don't typically find too many during that time of year. But you're not going to find sheds that time of year here with us yet. But still, you're gonna figure out some things about some deer movement patterns that you may not have known as soon as deer season's over. Toward the end of deer season is my time frame when I'm wanting to take a snapshot of my herd health.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get a group of guys together on my place, and we're going to shoot a handful of does all at the same time, and we're going to take body weights, we're going to take kidney fat index, things of that nature, and we're going to make notes of what condition our deer are in that time of year. And we're going to do that every year, just to be able to track kind of where we are with our deer herd.
And you try to do that the same time every year too, right?
Same time every year.
Yeah, because that way,
Yeah, if you do it in October when deer season opens one year, and the next year you do it the last 10 days of the season in February, you're going to have two vastly different looking deer herds.
yeah, you may look at them in February and go, "Man, this deer are starving to death."
Yep.
They're not though.
Yep. So do it the same time every year, and I want to know how they're doing at their worst.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, yeah, at the end of after the completion of the rut, everything's kind of wound down, and we're trying to recover at this point. Then see how things look.
That's right.
Yeah. So.
Yep. Postseason surveys. If you're really intensively managing your deer, and you want to see where they are, doing some postseason surveys, see who you've killed, who you haven't, who your neighbors have killed, who they hadn't, things of that nature. It's a great time because look, deer are going to be still wearing bait out, so it's an easy time to get a snapshot of that too.
Yep.
As soon as deer season's over. Another great time to get all your equipment in and do heavy maintenance on your equipment because, let's face it, you're not using a whole lot of it during that time of year. And the other big one is plant your trees.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of guys out, and of course all your hardware stores and Walmart and everywhere else in the world start selling trees in the springtime.
That's right. Yep.
Not the best time in the world to be planting trees. If you can, get with a really good nursery, get your trees ordered and plant those things in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Let them sit there and let them have some time in the earth before they need to be really, really growing. We have had much better success with our fruit tree planting, orchard type planting them in February.
Really?
Much better success on survivability.
That's awesome. Yeah.
No.
It makes sense. You said to give them some time in the earth before it's time to grow.
Yeah.
When they're supposed to be hey, these things are still trying to get acclimated to the environment. Yep. Still trying to make sure that we can survive.
Well, look, every other tree in the world, from a timber production standpoint, we put in the ground in the wintertime.
That's
why would planting your trees for wildlife be any
true.
different?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
That's just my personal preference. And then I didn't say the covey counts. Let me back up.
Rewind real quick.
Covey counts. I know I mentioned them earlier, but that's something you do, for us in our part of the world, probably late October.
Okay.
Right there around the end of October. Gives you a good idea because you're able to pick up the number of coveys that's on your place, listen to them call and call back. So
Gotcha. Cool.
But that is a fast and furious snapshot of things that we're looking at kind of by month or grouping of months through the year.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I know it was like drinking out of a fire hydrant. We were covering a whole lot of stuff and trying to condense it. We're still an hour and 17 minutes here. So.
We covered too much in this.
Yes.
I know it was being requested.
Yep, for sure.
But we covered too much in that. Not my favorite format, but I know people have been asking. But because we have kind of broken the seal on the management, I'm looking forward to heading down that road instead of being the 50,000-foot level, hone in on these things and start really picking a topic and doing the episode on that topic.
Oh, yeah, for sure, and deep dive on it because what we hope happens is that this piques your curiosity to go, hey, that was pretty cool. Now, can we dissect this further? Can we talk about the first quarter of the year? Those first 3 months. Really diving into what that looks like, and or if we're talking about, like you said, doing predator control, and we can do a whole episode on that. You can do an episode on what herbicides to be spraying and for which application and timing of the year and species. And I mean, there's so much here. So,
we didn't even mention shed hunting.
Nope.
I mean, it's not big here.
No, it's really not. I mean,
one, the woods are so thick, they're tough to find. Two, we don't have snow, so they don't get covered up and critters find them and chew them up and take them off.
Yeah, every one I've ever found has been gnawed on. I've never just found one.
The only time I find them is in a food plot.
After a burn?
Nope, with a tire.
With what? Oh, yeah, in the tractor. Yep. I understand.
Found one in a very unexpected place here a while back.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will not say on here.
I'll ask them off camera, guys. Don't worry. But yeah, that's cool, man. And I guess that'll about wrap things up. And I want to say again
that we really enjoy doing this without Matt.
No, I was not going to say that. But no, he's Matt gets a free pass this time. We managed it without him. But see, it's an hour and 20 minutes, and we didn't have our normal crew here. Imagine all three of us were here. Man,
it would have been 2 hours.
It's been 3 hours long, man.
Yep.
But yeah, I just want to say thank you for listening and thank you for engaging with us on social. Listen, if you have any questions or any topics that you'd like to see us kind of cover in more depth or something like that, feel free to shoot us a message. You can, we're pretty active, obviously, on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram being probably the most active, I guess. Shoot us a message through there. We love talking to you guys, and we love kind of answering questions the best we can. Most of the time when you shoot a message, you're getting me. And so if it takes a while for me to reply, it's because I'm asking Matt or Jeremy what I should reply back. So just bear with me on that. But we are excited to kind of bring the management aspect of this stuff and kind of not to get away from hunting, but to complement it and further kind of explain the why behind the what.
And a couple of things I have been asked, and I don't think I've even talked to you about it. People have just kind of asked me on the side. One is the turkey event Matt and I was at, weekend before last or last week? Weekend before last. But, that everybody hopefully understands I'm in the real estate business. But we do offer between Matt and I, consulting on real estate purchases. So if you're looking at buying property and you're not real sure if a piece of property fits your management objectives, then we can help you determine that. We can actually help you search and look for properties. By all means, I'm a real estate broker, and if you want to buy or sell land in Alabama, hey, call me.
Yeah.
Sure. Would love to work with you, but folks may not understand that we do help folks through the buying process outside of the real estate transaction from a consulting standpoint of saying, okay, well, we have knowledge of this area. The goal of growing top end Alabama deer, really this area doesn't fit that, or you're wanting a phenomenal turkey hunting place and they've showed you pictures of turkey. Well, yeah, there may be a couple there, but this isn't your turkey spot. There's somewhere else more suited to look. So we'll try to start throwing more ideas out there of how we can help. Besides just the giving information over the airways.
Sure, and I mean I think the last episode is the first time we've ever actually mentioned it at all. But if you're needing help with a consult or a site visit for your property, I mean that's something that we've had such a demand. It's really cool. Honestly, it's kind of not really anything that any of us really anticipated, but had several people reach out and go, "Hey, I want to know what I can do to my property to make it all it can possibly be. Do you have somebody you could recommend?" Like, well, yeah, both these guys do it for a living. Again, this is not a knock on anybody in particular or anything like that, but if you're going to do that, make sure that you're consulting with people who have the credentials, who have the academic background and the in the field experience, and can marry the two together. There's a lot of people out here that claim to be, wildlife consultants or habitat experts, blah blah blah, because they have a tractor and have killed a few deer. No offense, but they're not. It's not the same thing. Okay, and
apples and oranges.
Yes, and so.
I won't mention any specifically, but some folks were giving one down the road pretty hard in one of the Facebook groups I'm in last week. But the guys, they're tagging themselves as wildlife consultants when really they are a hunt designer. All they are doing is designing where a food plot should go and where to put a stand. And can we do that? Sure. But that's not the basics of our business.
No, it's kind of scratching the surface.
That's barely scratching the surface.
So anyways, all that to say, if you need help with that kind of stuff, please reach out. Again, that's something that we are actually telling people that, we offer now. Both these guys have their own consulting businesses. They have way before this podcast was ever a thought in anybody's mind. So it's not like we just kind of scrambled together and decided to do it.
And if it's an area outside where we're comfortable working or even want to travel to, look, we've got a network of great consultants all across the country that we either went to school with, done projects with, have experience with, that we can hook you up with. This isn't something we're just trying to be like, we figured out a way to make money. We want to help you guys find a trusted professional to help you with your project.
Yes, and if that means it's us, great. If it's not, that's okay too.
Yeah, that's okay too.
It's all right.
We're not the only ones that can do it, for sure.
Right. That's right. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. It's been probably the longest episode we've ever done, I think, but it needed to be because we covered a lot. But hopefully we got some more stuff coming your way, and we haven't done this yet, but hopefully in the next few weeks we may actually do some live stuff where maybe you guys can ask us some questions and we try to answer them in real time on Instagram. We've kind of kicked around that idea and just want to make sure that we are in the same place at the same time where we can pull that off. So thanks again. You have any questions, shoot us a message. If not, we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Out.
See ya.